Welcome back to Aggie Pride Podcast. I am Brock Galvin, and this episode is proudly sponsored by Next Level Sports, delivering the best youth sports experience. If you have a young, aspiring athlete in 1st through 7th, this is your chance to get on the field with Next Level Flag Football at UC Davis. All teams are coached by current UC Davis Aggies football players, giving kids real mentorship from the same student athletes who practice and play on the same field within the Aggies football program. All activity takes place at UC Davis Health Stadium, so you get the full game day experience each week. Whether your participant is brand new to the sport or already obsessed with football, Next Level focuses on skill building, teamwork, and growth. It's an incredible way to build confidence, make friends, and learn from true role models. Registration is available at nextlevelsports.com. We got a good one today. We are bringing in Teddye Buchanan, current Baltimore Ravens star linebacker, former standout for the ACC Cal Bears, and of course, your favorite linebacker from the UC Davis Aggies, where he spent a 4-year career tearing it up in the Big Sky. And we kind of touch on everything, and he is a well-rounded individual and an awesome conversation that I'm sure you will all enjoy. If you haven't already, follow the podcast on Instagram at UC Davis Football Podcast. You can also follow us on X or on YouTube. And if you enjoy the pod, give us a 5-star review and help spread the word. You can do that through Spotify, through Apple, or again, through YouTube. Without further ado, enjoy our conversation with none other than Teddye Buchanan. Welcome back to Aggie Pride, the UC Davis Football Podcast. It's a fun one today. We have a great UC Davis alumni, former Cal Bear, and current Baltimore Raven, and St. Ignatius, I should say. The pride of St. Ignatius, and that's none other than Teddye Buchanan. Teddye, what's up, man? Welcome to the pod.
What's going on, Brock, Dwight? Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. I've been watching the pod from a distance, so I'm glad to finally be on.
And we're glad to have you, Teddye, man. It's great to spend time. Appreciate you carving out time in your busy schedule. Like you said, we've been in touch about the podcast, and maybe we'll get into that because it gets into a chapter in your journey, which is wrapping up your time at UC Davis and heading over to Cal. But you and I have known each other. I still remember when you came on that recruiting trip, man. I got to meet your folks and your pops, who's an awesome dude. So we go back a little bit, and just as it's been super exciting to see how your journey has unfolded. But if you listen into any of our episodes, you know that we always start off with the softball, which is fun because there's stuff we know, stuff we don't know. But we wanted to give you a chance to take it back to the beginning, like love for the game. When were those seeds planted? How were those seeds planted? And take our listeners through the cultivation of your journey with the love of football, and how that actually ended up leading you to become a UC Davis Aggie.
Yeah, I mean, I also, before I start, I remember that recruiting trip as well, Dwight. That was, every time I think of you, I think of that moment meeting you when I was, freshman, and not even a freshman, just getting ready to go into college. So a lot has changed since then. So it's cool to look back on that moment and think about it. But my love for football goes as back as far as I can remember. Honestly, I think my dad, he loves the game as well. He might love the game more than I do, which is, not a lot of people can say that, but he really got me into it. And I just remember as a kid, like, I loved to play catch, especially with the football. And just the first time I played football, I was like, okay, this is fun and I'm good at it. So it didn't feel like any other sport to me. I played basketball, I played baseball, I did different things, played soccer growing up, but I was always the best at football, and it always came natural to me. And there's just nothing like it. The physical aspect of the game. I think it's the ultimate team sport. You're relying on however many guys at a time to work towards success together. And then I played football. My first season was when I was 6 years old. I'm 23 now, and I've played football every year since. So um, I am super grateful for the game and everything it has taught me and everything it has provided me with. So yeah, I just love football.
So you're obviously multi-sport guy. You talked about your dad's love for the game and that influence. Um, you know, there's a ton of comments in your post, and one of them talked about kind of the different steps along the way on your journey, that both before we met on that recruiting trip, probably at that point it would have been during your senior year in high school, your time at Davis, and then Cal, and now with the Ravens. And the comment was really around, hey, it seems like, maybe people have underestimated you along the way. Maybe there was, expectations that folks had, et cetera. And so I'm curious, how you would talk about you ending up, getting recruited and coming to Davis, and what that process was like. Obviously you had success at St. Ignatius at the high school level, but take us back to that time period when you were thinking about, hey, am I going to keep playing ball? If so, where, and how that led to you choosing to become an Aggie.
Yeah, I think back really to my junior year, and I started the first game at quarterback, and then I had a slight injury to my knee. I missed like 2 or 3 weeks, and then as I was preparing to come back, I broke my thumb in practice. And we were playing Valley Christian that week, but the next week we were gonna play Sacred Heart, and all my city people who
That's the
know about
rival.
the
That's the rival.
yeah, that's a big one. That's the Bruce Mahoney, that means a lot. So there was no way I was gonna miss that game. I wasn't gonna play quarterback with a broken right thumb, but I kind of forced the doctors to clear me and say, "Hey, I can play with a cast." I had this bootleg cast that I was playing in, and I got to play in that Bruce. And then I finished the rest of the season, maybe 7, 8 games, and it was exclusively defense. My whole life I had played quarterback, but I'm a football player, so I was able to play defense as well. But that offseason, I got a call from Colorado State, and it was a normal night, random number, decided to pick up, and I remember Coach Bobo, he called me and said he loved my tape and that he wanted to give me an offer, and like that kind of was a life-changing moment. Like I knew, okay, I'm gonna be playing D1 football. Like it's gonna happen. And then from there, uh, I think about San Jose State, other schools like that offered me, and obviously Davis offered me in a handful of other FCS schools, and I was kind of left with that choice. Do I want to go FBS or FCS? And really, what it came down to was just I felt like Davis really wanted me, had a plan for me, and would care for me as a person, not just, a number or just another person on the team. They really cared about me. And that really started with Coach Ijack. He's over at South Dakota State now. But just the connection I felt with him, I know he would be my coach, and just kind of the culture that I felt was alive at Davis when I was on my official and everything like that, just kind of made the decision pretty clear for me. I was like, I could go to a lower level FBS school, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Or I could go to a really good FCS program. And yeah, for me, it was just about the people and about the type of culture and the place. So a lot of people ask me, why did you make that decision? Why did you go FCS over FBS? And that's kind of my answer was it just felt right. And it was a place I could see myself succeeding. And ultimately, I think it worked out.
Yeah. Dwight had the experience of meeting you at the recruiting trip. My first, I guess, just awareness of you as a player was the signing class announcement. And just as a football alum, it's a fun time to watch the huddle tapes of all the incoming recruits. And Dwight and I, before we started this podcast, we would text about guys and share thoughts on who stood out. And I remember texting him like, this guy's different. And for those who aren't as familiar, especially like East Coast people, Ravens fans, the West Catholic Athletic League is one of the top leagues in the country out here in the Bay Area. And teams from San Francisco down the peninsula to San Jose, and you played in that league, and you played linebacker and quarterback, and that's not the everyday combination for our casual football fans out there. But you just popped on the film when I saw it right away. And you popped on the field right away when you started at Davis. Like, you played early in your career. You were, the guy in charge on defense, and you were a playmaker, man. Like, you were all over the field, and a lot of the same things you brought to the table in high school, you're able to do at the college level, getting after quarterback, catching the ball at the linebacker position, a lot of interceptions, making plays with the ball after you get it. And so, kind of as I start bringing up some of those things, let's talk about your Davis career, because so many of our listeners know it well. But how would you describe playing at UC Davis for those 4 years? The culture, the moments that you remember, and how it helped you grow and develop as a player.
Yeah, I remember showing up to Davis, and my mindset was, one, I hope I'm good enough, and I just want to get on the field and I just want to play. And I thought, you know, being just a player who contributed and played, I thought that was like the coolest thing in the world, to play at UC Davis and be a guy who was playing on the college level. And just, you didn't have to be a star on the team. I just thought it was cool that just to play, and that was my goal. And I remember kind of before I got there, it was COVID, so it was a weird time. And I was on a Zoom meeting, and the linebackers had already kind of been meeting, and they had been there and were experienced guys. And I was a new guy, and I kind of jumped in the meeting just to watch and try and pick up some of the defense. And I was completely overwhelmed with the amount of detail and just the scheme. It didn't make any sense to me. So I was like, okay, I definitely going to have my work cut out for me from this standpoint. And then I remember showing up as a freshman and seeing guys like Skip and Connor Pettick, just these massive guys who look like grown men and full beards and are all yoked up. And I'm 17 years old at the time, just like, whoa, this is going to be real deal. And just thinking about the workouts, and I was like, man, how am I going to do this for 4 years? Like, this is super challenging. And then kind of seeing as it ramped up to the season, it's like, okay, I'm probably going to play. And then a lot of that was um, being a young guy who's getting ready to play. I was often grouped up with a lot of the older guys, and, kind of away from a lot of the other freshmen at the time. So those experiences were challenging in the moment, but really, I think helped me grow a lot. And then I just think as I continue, like, into my sophomore year, then I became the starter. And I remember we were going to go play Tulsa, and I was like very, very nervous, very, like, how is this going to be? This is a legit FBS team. They're Tulsa. They were ranked last year. And we get down there, and then you step on the field and you're like, oh, this is just football. Like, this is what I've been doing my whole life. And then we end up winning the game. And it's like, okay, like that moment, I was able to get an interception in that game, and to make a play like that and win the game against a team like that, it really instilled a lot of confidence for me, and I think put me on a really good trajectory. And then, yeah, just continuing every day at Davis. I mean, it was definitely challenging because school is not easy there. Um, Coach Burke pushed us pretty hard in the off season. So I definitely grew a ton, and I had challenging moments, but I also had amazing moments. And I'm just super grateful for those experiences, because those have shaped me into the person I am today.
Yeah, when you look at yourself as a player, especially at Davis, kind of sticking with that, I talked about you being a playmaker, a guy who was able to affect the game, pressure in the quarterback, coverage, stuff in the run. What do you think were some of the routines, intangibles, coaching points, even techniques that made you that type of player? Does anything come to mind? Like, a certain off season or a certain moment where you're like, yeah, that's when I knew like, hey, I can do this.
Yeah, I feel like I have a couple different ways to answer that question. When I think of, because I think I had 8 interceptions at Davis,
Which is insane. That's insane for a linebacker. That's insane for a
and
DB.
I think about playing catch with my dad as a kid, and as I got older, he would tell me, "Oh, I used to throw you like bad passes on purpose to make you go catch them." So I just think like also playing other sports, playing basketball, playing baseball, just being an all around athlete, I think that helped me translate my game as a linebacker. And I never played off the ball linebacker in high school. So that was really like I always considered myself a quarterback, truly, until I got to college. So that identity really had to switch. And one of the biggest things that I needed to work on was using my hands. Because I would, when addressing blocks, I would see the ball and try and run to it and then a lineman would come up to me and they just grab you because if you can't defend yourself, then you can't defend yourself. So that was like the biggest thing all the way up until I got drafted. Like that was the thing that people talked about was a weakness of mine, but um, I feel like I've improved a ton on that. Just watching my tape from last year, like it's never going to be perfect, but I am proud of myself for improving a ton on that. Um, and then yeah, I mean, I've always been a football player. I've played both sides of the ball. So just having that experience, knowing what it's like to be a quarterback and then applying that to defense, it just helped me be an all-around player and helped me be versatile as a linebacker. I wasn't just a run stopper. I wasn't just a coverage guy. I think I was able to do both of those things.
Yeah, Dwight, this has taken me up to our inaugural season, an episode like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. And I tell Dwight, I'm like, hey, you know Teddie, right? Like we're opening the season at Cal because for those who don't know, after the successful career at UC Davis, Teddie made the jump to the ACC, which still makes no sense. This should be in the Pac-12, and goes to my childhood sweetheart team, the Cal Bears, and we open with you and Dwight. I'll kind of give you the mic from there, but that was the first time we were trying to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit at the time, but like, just curious, what that was like for you, right? I mean, I can just imagine, you had this really positive experience, played 4 incredible years, make the switch. It makes sense. And, we all were rooting for you in that. And then, you must have known kind of heading into it, or maybe you didn't, that this game was on the calendar. And you're meeting your new boys. You still know all the boys at Davis. So just, curious what that was like. And then maybe that can parlay into how that rest of that season went, which was, incredible for you. Accolades aplenty there. So yeah, take us back to what that experience was like.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was definitely a unique experience. I think um yeah, there's a lot of context to this. So I guess it starts back in December. I kind of knew I was going to hit the portal once the season was over. And once I did that, it became pretty apparent that Cal was going to be the spot for me. A big thing that impacted my decision was I couldn't leave until I graduated, which was in June. And I obviously wanted to graduate, but at the same time, I didn't have a choice. So that I couldn't push my graduation up. I mapped it out to graduate in 4 years and I was able to do that, but I couldn't leave any earlier. So um, Cal was close enough where I could drive down to their spring ball practices, but I couldn't practice. I would just watch. So I'm attending school at UC Davis, waking up at 5 a.m. to drive an hour to Berkeley and then back. And then when I got back, I would work out at the Davis facilities with Coach Burke on his workout plan. So a part of the big reason why I have such a special place in my heart for Davis is the support they showed me in this situation. because I was when it wasn't spring ball with Cal, I was working out with the Davis team, with all the boys, with all those guys. And although it was like everyone knew the situation, but it wasn't necessarily awkward or weird. And I was just grateful for that. Like that I feel like does not happen. And I feel like it takes like a special place like Davis and special people and like Coach Plow and Coach Burke allowing me to work with the team when I was literally like playing them, week one. Like that was crazy. And then I just think about getting to Cal and just the anticipation for that game. Like it meant a lot to me. I'm not gonna lie. And the media attention leading up to it, like, the writers ate that up. So
Hmm.
I obviously got asked about that a lot. But yeah, it was definitely a unique situation just to be kind of in limbo like that in between two worlds. But once that game was over, it was a big sigh of relief, and definitely a memory that I'll remember forever.
And then you have a season. I want to say you led the ACC in tackles, or at least your first team all ACC. Uh, Cal at that time was Justin Wilcox led. For the listeners who don't know, and had a strong defensive unit. Plow had spent a little bit of time with that staff as well, which is another UC Davis connection. You have guys like Evan Tattersall, who transferred, another guy in the league right now at the Packers, McAllen Castles, who transferred from Cal to UC Davis. So there's that little back and forth between the UC schools in Northern California. But what was, a memory that I have was the Auburn game on the road, and you just playing out of your mind. I felt like you made every single play in that game over and over. And it was so fun to watch it, both as someone who was rooting for you from a UC Davis perspective, but then also someone who just roots for Cal too, because being a Bay Area boy. What was the jump like? Did you feel you playing an SEC school on the road, in front of 80,000 versus, just to be frank, playing in front of like 5,500 at Weber State? Like, how did you adapt to that as a player in person?
Yeah, that was another one of those games that just stands out to me in my life that I look back on, and it's a distinct memory just because, that first game, although it was crazy and it was Davis, it was not an SEC team. And I had never played against an SEC team at that point, and I'd never been to an SEC stadium. So um I was really excited for that game. And I remember getting out on that field, and it was the same feeling like, oh, this is just football. But I do like to think about that game, and I like to say that game kind of changed my life because when the scouts go to watch, my season, they're watching that Auburn game first. And I did have a really good game. And just to be in a zone like that, in an environment like that, on the road, it was super cool, super fun. And then to win that game also was huge for our program, especially because I wasn't obviously a part of it, but the game the year before was a close game. A lot of the guys felt like they should have won that game, so that was a really special game for me and a game that I hold close to my heart.
Yeah, I was just gonna, it's actually pretty cool, Teddy, to hear like a marquee game as an Aggie, a marquee game as a Cal Bear, and we'll get to, you know, the this past season with the Ravens, but another big theme of, as you know, Aggie Pride is, we love the X's and O's, the stories. It's about the relationships, and so you have 4 years in Davis, um, 4 plus. And then you have this really special year at Cal. Talk a little bit about the special relationships, man, that you were able to develop during that time, with the boys, maybe even through your time at, as a student. Talk to us a little bit about that special year at Cal.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the relationships, I kind of want to circle back to my relationships at Davis. I feel like when we did I think it was the Sunday Night Football intros, I went Teddye Buchanan, UC Davis, because the people I met at Davis are the people I'm gonna know. The people that are gonna be at my wedding, the people I'm gonna continue to talk to for the rest of my life, just because, those are my teammates, those are my roommates, those are they're the guys, and they're my friends for life. And that's one thing I really appreciate about Davis, is more than anything is the friends I made, because the type of guys that get recruited to Davis are obviously great players, but great people, smart people, people who do great things in this world. And to be surrounded by those people every day, live with those people, it really made me a better person. Like I remember thinking like, man, these guys are smart. Like in the off season, hearing about their engineering or their chemistry classes or their biology classes, I was like, man, these guys are smart. And just being around that every day really pushed me forward. Um, so yeah, I'm super grateful for those experiences, because that's something that you don't necessarily get at every single place. And that's kind of why I committed to Davis in the first place. And I'm glad that stayed true throughout my experience, because it really was. And then moving on to Cal, that was truthfully, Cal was the school I always wanted to go to. They gave me a PWO, preferred walk-on, out of high school. And I said, no way. But, they came back with that check 4 years later. So that was a good feeling, a little full circle moment. Um, and yeah, and Cal as well. I mean, that's one thing that means a lot to me, is I feel like I have two places I can go back to. It's not awkward in any type of way, not weird in any type of way. And I don't feel, especially in today's transfer portal era, that's definitely not the case for everyone. So I'm blessed and thankful to have two places really that I can go back to. I went back to California maybe a month ago, and I was able to visit Cal, and I was in the area. So just things like that, man, it means a ton to me.
Yeah, both amazing institutions, right? Academically, both top 5 public universities and schools that are known for having true student athletes. And you mentioned just the type of people who go to Davis specifically, and of course we love the association with UC Davis on the intros before Sunday Night Football, right? Because we have actually pretty strong representation at the NFL level, given being an FCS program. We had guys that we played with. We have this punter pipeline, which has been going strong. Our punter was like the punter for the Bills for 8 years. Like it's cool to see a position player like yourself, though, immediately have that big impact. Ravens fans, we're not getting there yet, because I'm interested. Like you talk about guys being smart, and just the Hawkins way. Dan Hawkins, former Colorado Boise State head coach, who was the head coach at UC Davis when you were there, he was all about like this total person, and encouraging you guys to go out and do semesters abroad and that sort of thing. So something that piqued my eye was your art, and just like that creative side, which athletes don't always get to share, or it's not maybe normalized. And so I just am wondering, like, can you talk about Teddie off the field? Like, talk about what art does for you, what you majored in at Davis, and like just who you are as a person apart from the sport that you're known so well for.
Yeah, I like that you said that. Coach Hawk, I think that was an awesome thing that he did, was encourage us to be, a total person. Obviously, one thing he said that stuck with me is like, you always want to have balance in your life, but during a football season, that balance is, you can only balance so many things, and that's going to be, football, school, and your family. That's, during the season, that's okay. That's really all you can manage. But off the season, um, there's a lot more you can do. And I think becoming a complete person, and, just working on yourself, and making sure you're in a well-rounded place as an individual, will ultimately make you a better football player. Just, I just think it works like that. You live right off the field, good things will happen to you on the field. So, I mean, for me, drawing is a big part of that. It's a great way for me to, especially nowadays, get off my phone, kind of be present, and just be creative and create things. I think it's cool. Like a couple art pieces up in my house that, it's just cool to create things and have things like I can look back on. And I have my sketchbook that I used all throughout college and just, every once in a while flip through that. I think that's awesome. And just the process of creating, I think it works a certain part of the brain. I don't know exactly what it is, but everyone talks about flow state nowadays. But I think when you're doing art, like you definitely can reach that flow state. And I think it's good practice for getting into that mode when you're playing sports. Like it's very similar. Like if I'm not flowing when I'm doing the art, I kind of just like you stop and it's just not going well. But if you're able to really concentrate and get into that right mindset, just like you would in a football game, um, great things can happen. You've been drawn for however many hours, and you look up and you've created something awesome. So um, I feel like there's a lot of parallels that people don't necessarily associate between something like art and football, but that's kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah. You know what, man? We were joking before we hit record about your red lights. And you said like, hey, there's science behind this. And for those who don't know, you can kind of share a word about that. But there is, at the level you're playing at, there's so much science. There's so much probably creative philosophies or technologies or sophistications that don't trickle their way down maybe to an FCS program or even a Cal type program. And so I'm wondering, I know you've only been at it a little over a year at the NFL level, but like what in addition to drawing, like what other like philosophies or technologies have you been introduced to, whether that's like with the Ravens or with your like personal training staff that you've seen like really help you perform well or get in a good mental place to be at your peak performance?
Yeah, a big one I think about is it's funny you mentioned red lights. Um, but we have a red light bed. It's called the Immortal. If anyone wants to look it up. But it's our owner Steve Bisciotti, he hooked us up with one of those, and it's a super awesome red light machine. You can spend, up like an hour. You can spend however long you want on it, but I don't even know what it does. But I think it's one of those things like there's definitely some benefits to it, and I think there's the physical, you know, cellular, whatever it is that's cool and helpful, but I think it's also a good opportunity. It plays relaxing music, almost takes you through a meditation as you go
Hmm.
and sit there. And I think like taking those moments, especially during the season, you take 30 minutes to just kind of lay down, no phone, um, and just be with your thoughts and be with yourself and truly relax and, get yourself in a good spot mentally. I feel like those little things, especially throughout a long season, um, you know, just being in the moment, not looking too far ahead, not looking too far back, are huge to your well-being and performance throughout the whole season. And then I also recently invested in an 8 Sleep. It's like a mattress cover. It's pretty legit. You can cool the bed down, you can heat it up, it changes automatically as you sleep, it tracks your sleep, sends
Jeez.
sends you a text and you wake up. And I actually learned about that from our center, Tyler Linderbaum. I'd heard about it, but he convinced me to get it. His convincing words were when I sleep somewhere else, it doesn't feel as good. Like I notice a
Hmm.
big difference. So I was like, okay, like I can get behind that. And so
Do you bring it on road trips? What about away games? How are you managing
I
that?
just got it.
Okay.
We'll see how I manage it, but I don't know yet.
Interesting. Interesting.
That's awesome, man. Sleep is key. Art is life, you know. Like
Okay.
the cliche is real. Um, it's whatever art means. You're sketching.
Mm.
My younger brother was a huge artist, and I'm so grateful that like he had that gift. Um, me and Brock were talented musicians once upon a time. Um, there may or may not be some Maggie Idol clips out there. Did you ever do Art of Athletes, the art show at Davis?
That's what I was thinking too.
Because Brandon Tucker,
Ye
who was a running back at Davis, is the guy who organized it way back in the day, and I think they're still doing it.
I was slack, and I should've,
Hey,
but, sometimes
we'll have to get some
maybe
stuff
hopefully
together.
maybe I can circle back, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. But I mean, it's so important to have those other outlets.
Absolutely.
And your point about total person, be a total person, find balance, the Hawkisms. Those are good reminders, even for us old guys. So let's fast forward a little bit from the conversation we were having a moment ago around the marquee games at Davis, marquee game, during your time at Cal. And that leads up to a set of experiences that leads to a consequential phone call that, I know Brock, myself, so many people have dreamed of. And just take us through that experience of getting that call, realizing that the anticipation, maybe the uncertainty, everything leading up to it. We just had the combine, I'm sure that brings back, that this time of year, what that brings up for you now that, you've had one full season, but just take us back to what that experience was like to find out that you were going to have a home in the National Football League.
Yeah, it was insane, like, I think, um, going into my season at Cal, I was like, "Okay, I'll definitely get a chance, like, I'll get a mini camp invite, I'll get, something, I'll get a chance." But then as the season started to go on and I continued to play, my coaches would be like, "Okay, Ted, like, keep doing what you're doing, a lot of people are noticing." Scouts would, like, talk to me here and there, and, I was like, "Okay, this is, like, really happening," and it's kinda like when I got that offer, like, it's like you realize the direction your life is gonna go in. I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna be a NFL player," and it's crazy because my whole life I, like, idolized NFL players and looked up to them probably higher than I looked up to anyone, and to realize that I was gonna be doing exactly that, it was an interesting process because what I learned throughout the season was, I think in the beginning during OTAs and training camp and even the beginning of the season, I was trying to be what I thought an NFL player was, but I just realized eventually, Teddy, you just got to be you.
Wow.
Like I realized, okay, I am good enough and I deserve to be here. And the player and the person who has gotten to me to this point is the same person who needs to show up during practice, during games, and all the times in between. You obviously grow and can, you don't want to stay stagnant, but that was, I think, the biggest thing that I had to learn during the season. And I just think about the moments leading up to it. Like that night, I kind of assumed I was going to go day 3. That's what I heard. I was glad I went early in day 3 because we started partying at my house and that draft was still on for a long time. So I could only imagine how that felt for some of those like guys who went, 6th, 7th round. That must have been a day for them. But I remember the night before, like, couldn't sleep, dreaming about it. Like I was dreaming I got drafted this team and all this, and even leading up to it, that was a crazy thing. I had so many dreams about getting drafted to different teams, and it's just your future is so uncertain, especially when you don't know where you're going. It's not like college where it's like, okay, I know I'm gonna go here, 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 and I'll just make a decision. They're choosing me. So um got the call and I was super excited. It was hard to process. It took a while to process. And then even when we first got there, like a lot of, it's voluntary workouts. So a lot of the guys still aren't there. But then, mini camp rolls around, and you start to see Lamar and Derrick Henry and all these guys. Like I'm like, I know this whole team and I'm not even a Ravens fan. So it was a really, really crazy journey, but like I'm gonna look back on my rookie year and just the whole year as a total the combine, the Shrine Bowl, all the different things I did, the draft, and like people always say you only get to be a rookie once, and that's really true. And like those experiences, while they're not always easy, like I'll look back very fondly and they'll be very important milestones in my.
Man, that is I feel like you painted that so well. Just every aspect of it, and so I appreciate just being able to articulate it that way. Expect nothing less than a Davis Cal guy to be able to do that. But we're gonna start getting into some questions because a lot of them are centered around where you're at now, which makes total sense. But I thought there's some really good ones submitted, but one of them it touches on each program you've been a part of. Not the high school level, although you can add that in if you want. Um, but Todd Shaner asks the Ravens D, the Cows D versus Blue Force, which for those who don't know, that's the UC Davis defensive unit. Which was the toughest to learn, and which has been your favorite to play?
So the toughest to learn, it's for me, it has to be the Blue Force because you're coming from high school and it wouldn't matter which defense was first. It would have been whatever defense you're coming from high school to college with, because that jump it's a lot. It's a big jump, and I think there's a ton of kids with a ton of talent. Like there's talent everywhere, but your ability to grasp that and you know be trustworthy to the coaches and the people on the team is huge. This is just a huge part of football. So definitely that first defense. And then once I transferred to Cal, I could relate a lot of the things I learned at Davis to that. But some things, especially at linebacker, they just take time to learn. And there's so many little intricacies. And, guys are saying words and you have to ask what the basic word means. Like you don't even speak the language yet. So um, it was like learning a new language for sure, especially at Davis. And then I was able to apply. It was like going from like Spanish to like Italian or something. They're in the same family. It's not too different. A lot of the words carry over. But the Ravens defense was by far the most complicated. Like the most to learn, the most to absorb. It was definitely a process, but it was not necessarily like the scheme. Like we still ran a lot of the same coverages. It was just the amount of variations we did them out of. We're running cover three out like infinite amount of ways, and that could also change week to week, game plan things. So that was an adjustment, but as the season continued to go on, like anything, you get used to it and you start to be able to pick up on the repetition that you've had, over, you know, I think I played like 20 games this year or whatever it was. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. And you had just a killer year. I mean, being able to be named to an all rookie team and play such a prominent role. And you know this, and I know you said, "Hey, I didn't grow up a Ravens fan." Being from the Bay, that makes sense. We won't make you talk about your childhood NFL teams, but everyone knows the linebacker lineage and history for the Baltimore Ravens. I told Dwight beforehand, I'm like, dude, we got to ask him, like, what's Ray Lewis been telling him? I know that you've had interactions, or even if it's a word at a game or something, or I wonder about alumni for the program coming back and talking to you guys at various points in the season last year. But what was that like being a linebacker in your rookie year, playing a super significant role for an organization that is known for that position more than any other?
Yeah, it definitely meant a lot to me just to live up to that standard, live up to that expectation. And then I'm playing alongside Roquan Smith. So, that he's carrying the torch and I'm just trying to give it everything I have, truthfully, to not only, there's the fans and the organization and so many people involved, but just the shoulders of the people I'm standing on, like that means a lot to me. And I have had a chance to meet Ray, and he's exactly like how I thought he would be, very intense, but just a plethora of valuable insight and knowledge and motivation and just everything and more that I would have thought I would have gotten out of meeting Ray Lewis. And then I remember, like, Ed Reed came to talk to us, and there's been a ton of other players that come through. And I remember I was out eating dinner with Roquan, and Ed Reed comes up to us at the table, and I'm like, I'm playing it cool, but I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like, this is the best safety to ever do it. And, for him to, come up to us and say what's up was cool. And there's been a ton of moments like that throughout this year. You kind of you try not to lose perspective on how much they mean and how cool they are and how important they are. But yeah, playing for, the Ravens 30 years old, but just the amount of history here in this short amount of time is crazy. So just doing everything I can day in and day out to live up to that standard.
Man, the casual name drops, dude. I mean, and you got probably 50 more in your back pocket. It's so cool. You mentioned perspective. I'm just curious, like, getting ready, you're in this off season. Last off season, there was a lot of stuff going on for you. Now you are settled in. You've got this rookie year. You've got some injuries to navigate, but how are you keeping perspective? What does that look like for Teddye Buchanan? Because you just talked to us about this incredible journey, right? Where you just showed up at Davis like, dude, it would be so cool if I could just play here. And that reminded me of how I felt. Now, I didn't go on to have the career that you've had by a long shot, but I remember that feeling. I was a walk-on. You talked about the Tulsa game and how that gave you a level of confidence. You talked about Auburn at Cal and how that showed you what could be, and how that season went, and then you just talked about being on the field next to Roquan Smith and like having these, having Ed Reed, show you love. Like, what a journey, man. And it's just getting started. So how does Teddye Buchanan keep perspective in the midst of all of it?
Yeah. A moment I think about is when I, for example, show my family or maybe take a couple friends into the facility and they're like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, this facility is sick. Like, we can't believe you work here. And the first time I did that, I was like, oh, like, man, like, yeah, like, they're right. Like, that's crazy. Like, this is where I go to work every single day. And just to see their reaction to it. And like, my little brother is out in the field house, like, catching passes and running around. He doesn't want to leave. And I'm like, all right, man, like, we got a night game and I'm taking them on Sunday morning to the facility. And it's like, all right, I got to get home and rest. But like, moments like that really reminds you just where you've come from and how far you've made it. And just reminds you to appreciate it every single day because, it's human nature to get used to what you do every single day. But I do realize that this is special, and I try. And it's also not forever. Like, this is not going to be my job until I'm 65 and I retire. So just appreciating it. It's definitely not easy, but you definitely taking the right steps and taking the moments to sit back and appreciate it, but also you're in it, so you don't want to take too far of a step back. So it's just finding that balance.
I love that. It's where you go to work, man, and being proud of where you go to work and being able to show the people who love you and support you, like, hey, this is what it's like. And I remember that feeling in its own way, being at UC Davis. Like, I did not receive a Division I offer. And so when I ended up like earning a scholarship at UC Davis, whenever my family or friends would come to a game, like, that's everything. Like, just the pride you have, and could be any level that you're at, but your workplace and being proud of being able to provide for yourself and for those that you love in that way is so cool. I'm going to hit some rapid fires because I know we're working tight on time. Um, and so we'll just kind of start rattling them off. Most influential coach.
Most influential coach. I spent a bunch of time with Coach Ijack, and I started at Davis 17 years old and left when I was 21 or something like that. So I feel like that is a huge period of growth, leaving home and just having him alongside that journey with me. Like I couldn't have asked for just not even a coach, but just a better person to really help me be there for me, especially I mean, I wasn't far from home, but I never went home. So um as busy as I not that I never went home, but as busy as I was with football, you don't go home much. So um really appreciative of IJack, and I was actually texting him yesterday, checking in, just checking in on each other. So, that's the type of relationship that meant a lot to me and definitely has been the most influential coach for me.
Love it. Injury rehab. Like, how's that going? How you feeling?
Oh man, I'm feeling great. Definitely things blessed that, kind of best case scenario coming out of the injury, going into surgery, and then I couldn't have asked for a more smooth start to my rehab. Obviously, I have a long way to go, but going through that surgery, it definitely humbles you. You can't walk, you can't do nothing. Family has to fly out, help you do everything, and um, just to be like walking again and living, a normal life feels good. So, cannot complain and just excited to keep attacking it.
Love it. Best sandwich spot in San Francisco and best place to grab a bite to eat in Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay, my favorite sandwich spot as a as a Wildcat, as a SI alum is, Jeans, right down the street, little turkey avocado, everything on it. Um, I went back when I was back home. My man is still on there pumping out sandwiches, so yeah, Jeans Liquors, that's what it's called. I'm sure a lot of the SI people know about that right down the street. And then best bite in Baltimore, to me, there's this place called Marta, Marta. Think it was a James Beard nominee. Fire Italian, like pretty modern, I'd say, and it's real good.
Love it. So we got another one on here, which is fun, and former Cal teammate, probably going to be the number one pick. Not probably, will be the number one pick in this year's draft. He says, "How are you so good at ping pong?" Says Mister Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah, I mean, when you're playing against a Heisman winner every day in ping pong, it's probably pretty good training. So, but no, me and Nando had some pretty good battles. We had a little ping pong table up in the cafeteria at Cal, and we'd get after it, especially during camp. Long days, and we were definitely the two top dogs on the team. It's hard to say who was better. I think we started keeping track of our wins and losses, but then he ended up leaving and making his way over to Indiana, which worked out amazing for him. But yeah, I'm on a side note. It's super cool to see what Nando's done. Super proud of him. Uh, Always knew he was a special player, but he you know kind of exceeded everyone's expectations. Only person's expectations he didn't exceed were his own. But yeah, super cool to see him have the type of just legendary, one of the best seasons of all time. That was awesome to watch, and yeah, just super proud of him.
Is that it on our questions, Brock?
I was gonna say, we got some. Noah says, I mean, there's some funny ones on here. We can clip them if we don't want to. Noah says, "Is it true you were 17 during your senior season?" These are hard hitting questions, Teddy. What does pride mean for you? What's the best waffle knit long sleeve? I mean, we start getting some hard hitting. Teddy Sinatra, you might know this person, said, "Is your dad the greatest person you've ever known?" So those are just a smattering of questions. You take which one calls to your heart.
Well, I really like the waffle knit because that's been kind of my style lately, especially in this East Coast winter. You need a little warmth, but nothing too warm because I'm still a big guy, still run hot. So yeah, the Uniqlo waffle knit. This is actually a triple X. Went a size up. Um, but got the navy blue color Uniqlo. If you're watching, sponsor me. Need some clothes.
No shame. No shame. He's right here.
Yeah.
We're still gonna hook it up with a hat, by the way. I think I DM'd you a while ago, like, "Hey, where do I send the hat?" Oh, and
Yeah.
Dwight, we should ask this. I'm looking at a box in my office, so I just need to put it in a different box and send it to you. But Dwight, we need to ask about land because we talked about like, okay, we got a big punter pipeline. That's cool. We're proud of Dan. We love punters who can kick the thing forever, especially if they're your, Irish guys like Dan, which is awesome. Scottish, Irish, don't know. But then to have position players make an impact in the NFL is legit. And a guy who you went head to head with in that year where Cal played UC Davis was Land Larson. I remember we chatted with him before that game. And for those who don't know, Land spent this last year on IR for the New England Patriots after making the team as an undrafted free agent. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, do you stay in touch with Lan, and like, what do you kind of make of where he's at? He obviously kind of had the injury that put him out for his rookie year.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this about Lan. Lan is not only an NFL player, but a good one. Just having played against Lan and then played, basically a full season this last year. Like Lan has what it takes. He's a hard runner. He's strong. He has all that balance and whatnot from bull wrestling um, but what really stands out to me is his ability to make plays as a receiver. I think just his versatility. I mean, you saw like the one hand catches, hurdling people. I was like, this guy's going crazy. Um, I just remembered some of our games late in my last season. He's just putting the team on his back, just snapping the ball to him, extra lead blocker, and him just doing his thing. And just the toughness he showed and the toughness he showed throughout his career. There's nothing but respect for Landon. Awesome to see. I mean, it sucks that he got injured this year, but the type of preseason he had, I think he definitely would have made an impact on that team. And also, just while we're talking about the Patriots, got to shout out my boy Craig, safety number 31 for the Patriots. He had balled out in the Super Bowl. Had a bunch of people texting me talking about how well he played, and to make it to the Super Bowl as a rookie, that's an awesome accomplishment. Just as I've gone through this journey, meeting guys, and there's a ton of guys in the league. I think that's super cool. But yeah, Land, man, hoping to see him healthy next year, and I know he'll make a big impact.
Yeah, man, he had nothing but love for you. I remember when we talked to him, and yeah, like seeing that both of you be tracking both of your preseasons, and like, oh my gosh, we're gonna run it back in the big leagues with these two. A dream deferred. We'll wait for that one. But
Yeah.
man, like so excited to see what's next for you. And to watch you keep building and keep getting after it. Um, we want to give you the last word. So obviously we got, you know, everyone that's generally part of the Aggie Pride podcast community, current players, parents, former players, alums, fans all over the country. And then of course we have, your current fan base there in Baltimore. So want to kind of give you the last word, man. What's on your heart to send off the folks with?
Yeah, man. I guess I'll just give a message to the kids watching. Like, if you listen to this podcast and listen to kind of the things I said, like we talked about this, but like I was just excited to show up at UC Davis and hopefully play. Like that's all I wanted. So whatever position you're in, if you're a high school player or middle school player, whatever you're doing, and you have goals, I would just say take one step back and be like, how can I be the best at what I'm trying to, how can I be the best high school player? How can I be the best, you know, say you're redshirting. How can I be the best redshirt? And then how can I be the best backup? And eventually if you embrace whatever role you have, you'll get that promotion. It's just like having a job. You'll eventually get that promotion. You'll keep climbing and keep doing it. So um I just, these journeys aren't linear. They're not necessarily smooth. They're a dream come true, but the dream is not, you know, a perfect fantasy. So, um, yeah, man, just focus on what you can control. Focus on where your feet are, what you can do today, and you'll be surprised when you stack days, compound days. You'll look up one day and be like, wow, I made it as far as I thought I could. So, um, yeah, man, appreciate you guys having me. I've been wanting to do the pod for a while. It was just it was awkward timing. We were about to play the Ags, and I was like, man, I don't know if that's a good look. Like,
And you've been some would say you've been busy since. So
yeah,
everything in its time, man. And we're so fortunate to have you on. Wise words from start to finish. I was telling Brock while we were, in the break there, this dude is not only a literal artist, he's an artist with the words, man. So appreciate all the gems you dropped with us. And we'll have to do it again at some time.
absolutely. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Teddy. And I think I just echo what Dwight said, and even your last thought. Like this idea that a lot of the times we strive for the CEO, the star player, the role before we star in the role we're in, and so I think that's going to be one of the lasting things that stays with me is where are you and how can you thrive in the role that you're in, and you did that last year, and we're looking forward to rooting for you again this year. But thanks again for hanging out with us. We're proud of you, Teddy, and best of luck this year, and we'll talk to you again hopefully soon.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
See you, man.